If you want to contact that one to talk further about his endeavors and everything, would you send us his contact information?
Yes, so he invited us to him, so just send me an email now. Can I give you a quick lesson on approaching people? Professionalizing lesson. I get maybe 2 or 3 or 4 emails a day from students who want to intern or want to some way talk to me, discuss their thesis with me and other things. I couldn't possibly respond to, I just physically could not respond to all of the emails that I get. So the ones I do respond to are the ones that are respectful, right? That understand that they've looked at my work. They actually say, because you have done some work on waste systems and my thesis is on this, I would like to discuss X, Y, Z. They don't just say, and there's many of them that say, who's actually a graduate student of a friend of mine, who's the chair of a department at SBA, and he's sending me email after email saying, I'd like to discuss my thesis. I've had some initial ideas, not about why he'd like to discuss the thesis with me. Why would I want to discuss his thesis, right? I've got many, I've got many senior faculty whose theses I would like to discuss. Why would I want, unless you tell me why and that my opinion is important to it, I'm not going to respond. Right? So Thomas is obviously very open, but what I'm saying is that show that you've done your research, show that you value you'll look up Altanova, which is his company. Do a little bit more background research on what their company's done, why that is of interest to you, whether be specific about, I am thinking about how my work may or may not relate to corporate consulting, if it could be translated into, or some way in which you could build on, show that you were listening, show that you've done a little bit of additional background, and show that you've done the thinking towards doing that. And then let me tell you something I wish somebody had told me. Mentors don't just appear out of the kind of blue, say, oh, I'm going to mentor you. In fact, I'd have to say that if that I've put more work into the mentors that I've had than they've put into me, but that work itself was the very important. In trying to figure out how it is that they can help me, what it is they've done, trying to do that work and scope how this person's expertise, experience, contacts, joie de vivre, whatever it is about that person that is really critical to me, and really trying to figure out what that is. I'd argue that is the basis that's the main value of the mentor relationship. Then, of course, it's open. They may give you ideas that you haven't thought about, but you are much more open and ready and receptive and able to receive if you've done the homework first. So it's just, I think no one ever in my undergraduate career has ever said, this is how you should approach a professor. This is how you should approach a potential mentor. This is how you should approach someone in your field whose work you admire and you'd like to meet and discuss. And I think that is probably the single most professionalizing skill you could have. Not what software you know, not your GPA, but just how to really value and develop a reason why you can or should meet with somebody, and make them feel good about it. There was one woman recently, I was at a lunch, who made a systematic, she's a graduate student, talented graduate student, she's just graduated, but she selected 7 women who, very diverse fields, and made her own advisory board for her career, and invited each one of us by saying, you know, writing not only a letter of why she thought our work was, my work was important, but I am forming this advisory board, and here are the other people I've invited. And so for me, I'm looking at those other people, I'm associated with it. Wow, right? So then it's not even, so she formed this advisory board, an informal advisory board, which is just as much benefit to me to meet all these other advisors as it is to her. And I don't know where she got that, je ne sais quoi, that kind of social, emotional, and professional brilliance to figure out, oh, it's not sufficient just to ask one person. You've got to figure out how it's in their interests as well, and by them meeting this person, this person, this person, this person. So she had a lunch where she invited us all, and of course that then opens it up to in the future, because she's invested that formal. In the future, she can write me a little note saying, "Oh, do you know this person? Can you do a quick intro?" Or any of those informal things that then come from having really invested in developing a formal relationship. So if I know this is next class and I'm not giving you assignments, but I would say, I don't want to put onto your workload, but let me make an imaginary xCLASS assignment. That by the end of this class, you make a list of 5 people that you would like to mentor your future career. And that can be a changing list, right? But just do an initial list of 5 people that you admire, whose work you think is important, in some way you'd like to emulate, and make that list explicit, because I think actually Fernando's been very good at doing that, coming over here into New York, finding really impressive people, making meetings, having discussions with them, sending portfolios.
You suddenly discover someone that you didn't know his work, and you start watching her or his lectures you do, and then you learn how he works, and then just show him. And what I'm saying is, okay, I'm quite young and I ask him for some advice, and that's my excuse to connect with people. Advice, I think. And for me, they are always answering me. All of them, people I'm trying to connect, they always are.
These are people that I would be, he's had meetings with people that I would be intimidated to get meetings with. So, yeah, I mean, like, these are, so I think it's really, underscore that that's really about, I'm very glad you asked for Thomas's email. I think he's really bright. Actually, I would like to spend just you didn't really see the kind of corporate analyses he did, and that his consulting firm does. But yeah, what did you think of his presentation? Any immediate feedback, ideas? How much did you identify with that?
I mean, I like what you're saying about speaking languages. Just like putting in the things and things.
Right.
I have to put in the things. Like that's what you need to do, because otherwise I'm not going to do anything.
Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, and his company is in building and in energy systems. He didn't talk as much about the energy systems, but they really have done some persuasive work by using numbers and reports and the sorts of things that I would typically have said in this class, stay away from, because they're hard to do well, they're hard to do, fairly. Julianne, who's the director, is doctorate in engineering in life cycle analysis, has 20 years of experience of doing that. It's an arms race, that there are ways to circumvent it, but it really is a language that you can learn to use, and Thomas is making it available to us, so he will provide the support analysis for whatever we prepare to present to the UNEA, which is great.
What I thought was interesting how he was talking about bridging technology with the companies, basically. Like the energy system, which he didn't talk enough about, I think. It's just interesting when you're building these buildings to keep into account how largely affect what you do has on everything, and the productivity. And I think it's interesting when you consider architecture, because I'm considering architecture as well. And so I just like to learn a lot about the relationship with buildings.
And it's interesting that energy efficiency is this marginal benefit that there's so much focus on, you get so much about, particularly from the NYU Sustainability Task Force, and yet doesn't really count. And in fact, he didn't say it strongly, but there's a professor at Yale who's done a beautiful analysis of all the LEED certified buildings, which on average use more energy than any equivalent existing building, as an artifact of they're more expensive, they kind of showcase, they're usually in high-end real estate, and then more used. So by comparison with other standard building stock, it's not that they're all of the design initiatives combine to essentially a negative benefit, despite the good engineering in tweaking the HVAC system for efficiency and recycling grey water. For all of those things are valid and important, but they don't really add up to much. And I think that was a very strong point that he made, and that he makes to corporations, that in fact the benefits of orienting towards natural systems and environmental performance include the well-being of staff, and that is actually much more, that dominates the costs of running a company and the productivity of the company, is the productivity of the people, not the buildings. So I think that's a really important point, that architecture is not oriented around it all. It's not. Actually, this is one other point. If you're interested in architecture, Zaha Hadid, I wanted to discuss that a little bit, because she's a very particular icon of transforming architecture. So just a couple more comments on it. I'm going to spend a bit of time on Zaha, on the Thomas presentation.
I have a quick question. For those companies like Coca-Cola or Starbucks who do a lot of marketing on their environmental friendly thing, do they do this cooperation with environmental consulting firm or with PR marketing? Or in other words,
I did a metric of that once for the Which campaign was it? How much money was spent on the PR and advertising of anyway, of the this green initiative? I think it was for Nike. I have to go back through my notes. How much money was spent on promoting the green initiative versus how much was spent on research to develop the innovations in the materials and other things? Can you guess what if it was 1 to 1, 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1, what might you guess? PR marketing expenditure versus research expenditure. It was about 2,000 to 1 is what I had approximated, but yes, yeah. So I think there's a real skepticism. The red campaign. Does anybody want to comment on the red campaign? Has anybody got a red phone or a red? Look up red. Sorry. Red campaign. Bono, and it's probably the biggest environmental and there's been some nice analysis on how it's a for-profit initiative, right? To do these special editions of products that nominally address, what is it that they address? Right? I don't know. I haven't gotten that from the marketing. There was an analysis of, that was actually came up much more your numbers spent on PR versus the numbers spent on actual development goals, or was something like 50,000. I can't remember, but I think what you're pointing to is a real skepticism that greenwashing that everyone is skeptical about, right? I think it's an audience. I mean, what's your favorite example of greenwashing or health washing or? Well, just claims, marketing claims like on the front of chewing gum, no saturated fats. Well, there was never any saturated fats, right? This whole, yes. Well, GMO labeling. I mean, what?
Coca-Cola always ties themselves with the image of polar bears, which makes it feel like you can Coca-Cola, you're saying the polar bears, but I never get the idea behind it.
That is a really interesting, and ironic, given that the polar bears are the icon of suffering, charismatic animals, given climate change, and given that the distribution and pollutants emitted by Coca-Cola bottlers and distributors, given it's a major corporation, a major player, but probably, I don't know, if we compared it to the pollution that school buses worldwide produce, what do you think costs us more environmentally in that comparison? Distributing Coca-Cola or distributing children to school? Actually, I'd argue the other way. I think there's more emissions. But what is a better social good if we were to say, okay, we'll cope with some emissions if we get kids to school. So I think this is the big issue about what I care about is in the way that I would talk about it. How do we raise standards of evidence in environmental transformation? Because frankly, the kind of bullshit claims that are made, ecotech, your NYU sweaters, there was a nice Haskell was made analysis done on one of the, this NYU sweater sportswear thing contains recycled plastics. I think it was ocean plastics. And when the student looked into it, it was less than 0.1% of the material. And, you know, it was a marketing ploy to say there was some in there, but not substantial. And still, it will enlist the goodwill of people, right? Still, it works for marketing because people are interested in transformation. People will pay up to 300% more on average for organic fruit and vegetables versus non-organic. Corporations know they can manipulate that. But how do we raise standards of evidence so that the public isn't dupable? I think that's your question. Is it by doing a big life cycle analysis that this corporation, that this consulting firm does? And they, you know, as I said, they do the best versions of it that I've seen. But have you ever read a life cycle analysis? Have you ever seen a product that refers to its life cycle analysis? Not really. I can tell you one new strategy that I'm using to, I think we've talked about it before, that I think will change standards of evidence. We started to talk about it a little bit with Tim and Gulliver's Gate, is doing experiments, doing public experiments. So not only doing public experiments, but doing betting on those public experiments. Did we discuss this? So I've developed a strategy called xBet, betting on the future. And for instance, a bet is placed on a public experiment. In Ukraine and Bulgaria, in the last 9 months, there's been the biggest land grab in European history by Monsanto because Ukraine wanted an IMF loan, Bulgaria wanted an IMF loan. One of the conditions of the loan was, okay, you hand over, you know, you open up to Monsanto. Now, Monsanto is a company that's not known for being accountable to local communities or local wealth, and you know, is arguably being called the most evil company in the world. It started off as a chemical warfare company. That is what it and is now the biggest agricultural company in the world. So Europe used to be a GMO-free place, right? Not anymore. Monsanto is going into the bread. Ukraine is the bread basket of Europe. Bulgaria adds to that. So betting on the future is taking a plot of land in Ukraine and growing it with Monsanto ready, Roundup Ready, and the conventional Roundup Monsanto approach. Same plot, equivalent size, right next door, growing the same crop in under conventional Ukrainian methods, right? Peasant technologies that have aggregated over collectivization and post-collectivization. And the third plot, same size, same crop, using the waste to energy soil building ideas that so we have 3 plots: Monsanto, traditional Ukrainian, contemporary systems, design mutualistic systems design. And we open that up to bet on. And we say to each of you, bet $5 on which one you think will have the highest yield, which one you think will have the biggest growth rate, and which one will have the best microbial diversity. You know, starting now, we'll announce the winners in September 12th, right? And we have a big event and announcing it. School kids will be able to bet on which one will have the highest soil microbial diversity. So they might not know anything about soil microbial diversity, right? But putting $1 on something changes your orientation towards it, right? Changes. Oh, I've got a, you know, I know that everyone thinks Monsanto is evil, but, you know, I think they've got some good science. That, you know, they get to develop a rationale or not. Oh, I don't know, I just took a guess, but I'm interested in the outcome, right? And being, kind of having skin in the game, as it's called, changes your relationship to that. So which one would you bet on? On which parameter? Monsanto, traditional, or my systems?
I was probably that Monsanto, because they have some resources that we can.
Well, and they have. And my point is for this system is that many people might bet on that. And certainly the Ukrainians and Bulgarians who don't have the skepticism, don't see that Monsanto has warped science. It has very low standards of evidence. The claims that the marketing claims that it makes about yield are bullshit. Any systematic analysis. The degradation of soils that Monsanto has created, the catastrophic pollination collapse, the the circumference of children born near pea fields under Monsanto fertilizer regime, the average head size is smaller. Real human costs in the bullshit claims of Monsanto. But how do you, because they've got all the resources, because they've paid and paid and paid, hundreds of paid for science, very hard for anyone to really distinguish. Is that real or not? Is Monsanto really going to save the world and create the kind of yield we need, which is of course their claim? Let us do all the GMOs and all the petrochemical fertilizers we like because we're the only ones that are going to deliver to you the food to feed the world. It's BS. Right? But the only way to show this is to demonstrate, to do the experiment. See, you know, no one's going to believe me against Monsanto, right? No one's going to believe you against, you know, Monsanto. Sorry. But if there is evidence, if we raise the standard of evidence, if the school teachers in the Bronx can show their kids, you see, those kids will forever know. As Monsanto claims that they're going to triple yield, just aren't true, right? So strategies to raise the standards of evidence, change who can make a persuasive claim, are typically who has the bigger advertising budget, who has the bigger marketing budget, who can affect the public imagination. But I would argue that independent creative agency is also at play here. Okay, any other comments about Thomas's presentation?
Yeah, I mean, I do think when you look at the business side of things, it does completely different from that. But it's kind of important to remember that harsh reality that if there's no gain for the company, then they're not going to be interested. Which, I mean, it's interesting in a way, but it poses the new challenge of like finding what, like you said, the managers of the corporation, finding the exact wording and to give them an answer.
Magic.
So,
It's tricky, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting like that. Sorry. Well, all of that.
you know how that works. It's like, I think it's broken. Right?
So I'm glad you understood that, because I do think it's our responsibility to be able to show how this benefits the corporation. And I think that this is important, like in the Bogota project, how does it benefit companies to distribute through and invest in a shared public system? How much efficiency will that have? How much does that offload their need to run their own trucks and their own staff? How much profitability does that? It can't help but, right? If you invest in a shared system, you're making a marginal investment as opposed to having to build a whole truck fleet yourself. It can make a lot more sense for the company. Also, the whole rationale of mutualistic systems design is not to say corporations are bad, right? And fight the big corporations, fight the bad guys, formulate them as the enemy, which of course is what is the tradition of the received environmental activism of Greenpeace, of Sierra Club, the Sierra Club is much more, they've made some unholy alliances. One of the interesting examples of the unholy alliances of mutual benefit is Sierra Club partnership with Ducks Unlimited. You know what Ducks Unlimited is? Ducks Unlimited, the shooting club, people who shoot waterfowl. So hunters and environmentalists are not normally seen as aligned, right? And yet more wetlands have been built and restored under that partnership than in every other partnership combined. Because, of course, it's in the exactly. There's still a small issue that the lead that they use in the shooting the animals and contaminates the wetlands and all sorts of other things. But there's been extraordinary, the powerful money group of duck hunters and the swaths of land that have been restored. You know, it's a good thing, right? There's more to do in that area. But these mutualistic relationships, benefit analysis, not cost-benefit analysis, is what I would argue is the fundamental thesis of what I'm trying to teach you, right? Mutualism, even if it's Coca-Cola, right? We have to take them on. So we've got a little bit of time left. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Zaha because it's important, but I also want to keep some design time for discussing ideas about transformations, catching you guys up with ideas for Beijing, ideas for Bogota, a little bit of the history. You guys are going to do a quick presentation for these on the local politics. And I think, again, this was a big shift because these are such exciting cities, right? We can do an equivalent for New York City, but using their local expertise, I think, is really exciting. So just let me say a little bit about, I'd like to have a quick discussion about Zaha. Does everyone know who Zaha Hadid is? Quickly look her up and have a look. Z-A-H-A, Hadid, H-A-D-I-D. Yeah, that's her. You know what we should do as an indicator? Architecture is the most male-dominated professional field currently. More than heart surgeons, more than orthopedic surgeons, which is apparently the most male-dominated of the Anybody have a theory on why? In fact, this is very beautiful. There's a gender journalist who always says, "Don't ask why there's so few women on corporate boards. Ask why there's so many men. Why are there so many men in architecture? Given that architecture graduates are 60% women. More women, same is true in medicine. All the high-income earners, male. What's going on?" You'll see that the actual staff gender balanced. So architects get hired into architectural positions, but Zaha.
She had that really strong.
She was the only woman to win the Pritzker Prize, and the only woman to, although there was, I think, a couple in partnership. Rem Koolhaas, his company was co-founded by 2 women. Have you heard their names? Don't even know them, right?
And also, you knew the story about the Pritzker event. Scott.
Right. Yeah. The Pritzker Prize is the big prize in like the Nobel Prize in architecture. And yeah, there was a profoundly important group in the 70s, 80s, Scott, Brown, and yes. The Pritzker jury rejected the niece Scott Brown's of the couple, so he got the prize and she didn't. There was a petition against it. They rejected it. Rejected a petition for architect Denise Scott Brown to retroactively receive recognition for the award that her husband and partner, Robert Venturi, won in 1991. Has responded to the letter to the Harvard students who started the online petition saying the way the jury is organized. Anyway, you can read this. So this was an architectural partnership. They did everything in partnership. He got the prize and she didn't. This is the question. So the idea that a profession that posits the most conservative gender norms, ferocious gender norms, not sustainable in any other field, not even presidential elections, should be leading our urban transformation, should be the visionaries of urban transformation, is a little bit questionable, right? This kind of fundamental. The reason why gender is so important is because once we figure out gender, and why feminism has been such an important epistemological sense, is then we figure out race, minorities, that it's not just the singular. The whole reason why feminist epistemology is actually the larger, I don't know how much you've gone into intersectionality, but it's really important to understand that gender equity is kind of fundamental practice for all other forms of equity as well, right? Because it's so primary, because it's so. So Zaha, what did Zaha do for the architectural profession in being a woman that did succeed? And in the reflections, the cultural reflections around her, if you read any of the obituaries, and I encourage you to read some more of the obituaries after class this week. She was a woman. She was a woman. She was a woman. She was a woman. I mean, like, basically, that's what all the obituaries say. It succeeded in a male-dominated field. She was a woman. She was a role model for this. The New York Times obituary quoted a young male student from some architecture school saying, "Oh, she was a role model for the women in my class." I have never seen such bad reporting of hearsay of somebody, not a role model for him, but attributing that she was a role model for women, because only women look at women's architecture, right? Or take women architecture seriously, right? So to look at the way that the public presentation of Zaha's work on her death, on untimely and sudden death, as a reasonably young and very productive architect, very, very disheartening. And frankly, in my analysis, Zaha may as well have been a man. Because her transformations, she did beautiful architecture, right? And she did do the formal, she made curves and curvilinear architecture possible. She really pushed and promoted that this is not about boxes and rectangles and sharp edges. And many people would argue that that's a feminine, curves are feminine. I would not. Formal geometry, no one said that about Frank Gehry. Oh, how feminine is his architecture. So her transformations were valuable. If architecture is only about formal innovation, changing the form, whether it's a box or a curve or this or that, is that what architecture is about? Or is architecture the way the built environment responds to natural systems? Is it the way that we can, in fact, change our relationship to natural systems and change the social and political performance? So in architecture, not only is it a field that's horribly dominated by males, unquestioningly. In fact, there's one nice architecture professor who insists he only will speak on panels if it's 40% women. And he just has that as a thing. He's at Bartlett magazine, and it's called the Wilson requirement. But he's just made it his thing that, you know, every time. And I have to say, you know, I've thought about doing the same thing in tech field, right? I'm only going to speak on panels because there's one time in my life when I was on a conference, and the hundreds, thousands of conferences that I've been to, that it was dominated by women. So in the fields that I'm in. But anyway, so this is an idea of what was it that Zaha represents, and is she the agent of transformation just by virtue of being a woman? Or are there other questions that have got nothing to do with, you know, what, in defining what the challenge is? If women, minorities, if alternative voices are going to be included in the built environment, in transforming what our green spaces look like, small or large, what our built environment looks like, small or large, it's not going to be because they're Hispanic woman, you know, it's not going to be based on their ethnic, gender qualification. It's going to be based on their ideas. Well, I would argue that this is the responsibility of the next generation, that it's not enough just to enter, for women to enter male-dominated workforces. They have to transform them, right? There's an additional, and not only women, but each of us, right? It's not enough to compete on the same, you know, in the same competition as Glenn Koolhaas and Nobel and call them the big swinging architects, I'm sorry. That's not interesting. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Zaha. But she didn't make it. She didn't transform the built environment so that it accommodates women. It's actually interesting, the regulatory force of ramps, right? So for the Department of Building a permit to build, you have to have a disability ramp access, right? Funny thing about the ramp access, architects hate them, right? They take up a lot of room, they're kind of unsightly. How do you fit them in? What do you do? You have to do it for a permit. Who uses them? Turns out not just people with wheelchairs, a lot of people with strollers, all the delivery guys, and the people with wheelchairs, right? So in that kind of heavy-handed forcing to accommodate difference, we realize just how different we all are, right? So I just want to have you consider Zaha's work and think about whether or not it is the powerful transformation that we need, and feel invited to say, yes, she was a woman, and, you know, but to consider the architecture on the basis of its architecture, and that this challenge that you face, the design challenges of, quote, our generation, the contemporary design challenge, is to do something very different with architecture. Find an architecture that improves environmental health, that increases air quality, that creates habitat for the red-tailed hawk. It's already told us it's going to move in anyway, right? So why not make it? That accommodates not only difference in people, genders, age, but in biodiversity as well. The next time we see a little old person walking up a ramp, know that that was a big fight to get that there. And that we may have fights like that for other things coming up. Okay, really important woman, very important mark in history, I think, and a very important call to reclaim the challenge of architecture and the built environment as our own. Okay, so give us a lowdown on Beijing to look at.
So I focus mainly on the neighborhood idea. I can show you the map. Here is the map of Beijing city. It contains 7 rings. Here is the 7th ring, 6th ring, 5th ring, 4th ring, 3rd ring, 7th. So it's circle. And the neighborhood idea is this area surrounded by the red line. It's called West City.
And that's in the 2nd ring?
Yes. And so you can see over here, this is where all the central leaders live. And here's the Tiananmen Square. So this district is an important district in Beijing.
And what's this park?
It's where the central leaders live. They have this land, and nobody else can go into it.
So it's protected by physically or by police or
by military. And if you use satellite to view the image here, it's covered by trees, so you can really see what's inside.
So is it the greenest part of Beijing?
There are some other parks in Beijing, but I can show you
But the greenest inhabited part? Yeah? Interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? Wealth and power. Get nice greenery.
And it's said that the U.S. embassy in Beijing has their own system of water and air, so that they don't use the same water and air as the other cities. The U.S. embassy.
Really? Wow. Wow.
And here is the street view of the neighborhood I live in.
So is that residential or commercial? It looks like it's commercial.
My building I live in is over here.
Ah,
And this area is the financial district area of Beijing. And here are some numbers I find. So the population of the district is 1.2 million, and 13 districts in Beijing. So the total population of Beijing is around 20 million. And
well, that's as much as the entire continent of Australia.
and the electricity the district used 1 year is 240 million kilowatts, and and all those electricity are used by citizens, not the industry or companies.
240 million megawatts for 1.2 million people.
It's 240 million kilowatts.
Kilowatts, right.
for 1.2 million people. And another number is the living trash they produce from the district. Every year it's about 1,500,000 tons, so it's 15 million tons living trash produced per year.
15 million tons
And
per year.
per year,
Just that district.
just a district.
Holy moly. And that's, again, residential.
Yes, residential. And the expert says if all those trash are put into resources, in other words, recycled, they can produce the profits of 7.5 billion Chinese yuan, which is about 1 billion US dollars.
Wow. And who is that that's done that analysis? Is that?
It's a professor from Tsinghua University, which is best university in China. His name is Gong Zhang, Gong and Zhang. I'm not sure if you can
Gong Zhang. Everyone called Zhang.
Yeah.
So does he publish in English as well?
I didn't look at that, but I can try to find it.
Right, so his reports seem like they would be very useful.
And he also did an analysis on if every citizen can recycle the trash sustainably, like put them in the correct form, then each person can be rewarded 100 Chinese yuan per year, and the amount of money you spend is about 800 million per year, but the profit I just mentioned is far more than that. So
yeah. 1 billion, yeah.
So he encourages people to recycle themselves, so that they can get reward and the city can get reward. So
yeah, I want to underscore that because this is the idea of using local labor, incentivizing instead of making a job, just making it worth your while to pay you to recycle. And then if you don't feel like recycling, then the kid down the road, down the hall who really wants to earn a bit more money will come, I'll come and do it for you, and then pick up the money and you make deals locally, right? Because that's how a local economy can emerge if there is this shared distributed incentive as opposed to we coming in with our big trucks and you must, the dutiful way of recycling that we in this building, right? With educational stickers, and I can tell you what happens to most recycling here, other than recycling, right? Despite all of that. So if it's tied into actual profitability, if you're being paid, that's a contract that makes it make sense. It's a good precedence for the Bogota example as well, and I think for New York example.
I also read in this district, they're trying to use a system to encourage the citizens to recycle the trash by themselves. Whenever they bring their recycled trash to the trash stations, they will weigh the trash they bring there, and whenever they bring in total of 30 kilograms of trash, the trash station will give them free rice or oil as a reward. And each
Free oil, or what was the other thing?
free oil and rice.
Right.
So it's basic living stuff, and old people like to do that for exchange of their life.
Interesting. So it's primarily old people who are doing it. See, this is the informal economy, goes outside of the main income formal. Really interesting example. And that's working?
Yes, because each time people cannot bring that much trash, so the trash station also distributes the electric card. So each time they weigh, for example, this time they bring 10 kilograms or 5 kilograms, they can put the number into the card. So they can keep track of
Oh, I see.
how much.
I see. So it aggregates over time. So you can bring 10 kilos and then 5 kilos and then when you get 30, it's like your loyalty card, you get a free coffee. Yes. Huh, that's great. And who designed that system? Is that a centrally designed system, or is that a company, or is that? Can you imagine a similar system working in NYU? Is anybody in the dorms? No one's in the dorms, right? You're in the dorms. Can you imagine it working in the dorms? Where you are paid in ice cream to deliver, you know, once you get up to.
And it's usually students are strapped for cash.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like any sort of little deal that they can make just for like doing it, a lot of people would do it anyway.
Right.
And so people just go out of their way and do a little bit extra just for if it is otherwise. So.
Right. Right. I was thinking what I'd love to model is what if the food plans of NYU. Is anybody, you're on a food plan? You're on a food plan? No. Have you been on a food plan? Did you enjoy it? Do you love it? Your food plans?
I mean, it's alright. It's convenient though. Yeah, it's more convenient than anything.
Yeah. What if you knew that it devastated the local economy? What if you knew that most of the stores around 8th Street and the Broad Kitchen is just closed, lasted for about 3 months?
Somebody got food news in here.
Which one's the Broad Kitchen?
Broad Kitchen.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, but that one also closed because of the workers that they had.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they had like some workers, like
A union issue?
yeah, something like that. I think that's what they closed because there was a massive protest, like 100 people showed up, and like you couldn't walk around the thing.
So what do you think of the, regardless, I mean, like, have a look at the urban policy that we see in NYU of instead of fostering diverse little businesses.
The union workers protest.
Well, there's been a lot of graduate student union protests at NYU as well. It hasn't closed down NYU. Have you ever heard of institutionalizing? Socialist institutions. What do you think is the biggest socialist institution in the US? Budget's far bigger. The military. The military in is every way a socialist institution. Equal pay, accommodating similar accommodation. It's a total institution. You get your medical care, you get your healthcare, you get your professional services, all from the military institutions. Google is becoming a total institution. You actually bring your kids there to have childcare on campus. You eat there. What what do you feel about total institutions? NYU, where you come to New York City to be in the middle of New York City, and you end up living in a dorm, not the very diverse, food, little Ukraine and little Japan, and all the, not fostering the diversity that is here, but having a meal plan that has got limited choices by dubious big catering companies that have got very little accountability to people's health. There's been a lot of analysis of it. Very few students have done it, but essentially the big catering companies that was a big.
As workers, and they haven't moved to the country.
And you've asked that to them? Yeah.
One of my friends, she was picking up an apple, and then the person working there, she was like, "Stop, don't do it." So she went and dropped the apple and walked away, and he wouldn't say why. It was just like, "Don't eat the apple."
Wow. Yeah. So that's a problem with total institutions, right? They lock in particular contracts, and those contracts, you're not making your food choices on the basis of, it's the healthiest, cheapest, market-based decision that you can make that's interesting to you. You're making it because you're locked into that food plan. It kind of takes away the capacity to choose and to contribute to the local community, right? So we can design systems as total institutions, but who wants to work in Google and go in a Google truck, a Google bus with dark windows, like a spaceship that comes and picks you up in San Francisco, where you live in the Mission District and have displaced all the ethnic color and vibrancy because driven up the real estate prices so that everybody non-Google can't live there. Comes on a big bus that parks in the public bus, and so the public transportation has to wait until the big Google bus moves on, and then it takes you all the way down. You can only talk to Google people, and then you get there, you eat with Google people, you work with Google people. How much control do you feel of your life? Is that a free market-based economy, participatory democracy?
It provides more choices, so only if you have plenty of us to go for.
How does it provide more choices?
Because you can either work in the institution and stay in there with more content, you can lunch with those people, or you can go out and you can still go outside and go to whatever you want. I think it's providing another alternative. Which might not be a good alternative.
Why do you think it's providing another alternative?
It's like a college campus. You're mingling with people who are like you. It's also kind of some of the things that Thomas was talking about, where it's in the company's best interest to provide services for the employees. So whether or not it gives them as much variety as to what city they're in, it does, like with the day-to-day stuff or the food, it gives more incentive to stay there and work harder. But being looking at financial space for it. So you might not be experiencing where you're living, but you have all these great options that make Google a great place to be inside and to be doing your food, so that you can work longer hours on your own.
Exactly. So the average, the 8-hour workday, which was a great achievement in labor, has become usually the 20-hour workday. There's no additional pay, there's no, but it's convenient. It's the option to stay there. Arguably. Arguably.
Software or computer scientists, a lot of the better times when you take computer science and they just stay at work till 10, which is because that's what they want to do. And the services are provided for them to be able to do that. So it's not for everyone.
So I'm a computer scientist, and I would argue that that is actually in anybody's interest, right? Doesn't make them better coders? No. Does it make them better people? No. Does it make them, machines for producing code according to the corporate? Does it, maximize the amount of labor you get out of them? Yes, right? Whether or not that's the kind of culture you want to produce, and whether or not that kind of complete You know, if we talk about the gender bias in in computer science, and it's something I've studied a great deal, you can see that the attrition rate of women and minorities in computer science is it for the benefit of the industry to have only white males, Asian males in an industry? Because of course they don't have the childcare, and they don't have the elder care, and they don't have the other life that, you know, I would argue that that's not what they want to do. It's that they haven't had the capacity to develop other forms of life-affirming, independent, creative agency that would allow them to understand what the value of their work is, and what the value of other forms of contribution is, and whether or not. So, I mean, I don't think that corporate manipulation to keep you there for 20 hours a day doesn't guarantee better childcare for your kid, doesn't guarantee better food for you, doesn't guarantee any of the kind of, whereas we would argue that a childcare facility that's based on the, you know, on its merit, rather than it's being in Google headquarters, right? That it has the pedagogical strategies, and it has the committed staff, and it has the, you know, that's why you would choose it, right? As opposed to, it means I can stay late and do an extra 5 hours when I need to, and they'll stay and do the additional care, right? Maybe that's the wrong way to be designing our systems, right? Given that we're a market-based participatory democracy, that's saying total institutions, fascist, complete control, socialism. Let's be real, the military is a socialist institution. The Google is a socialist institution, a fascist institution. If we look at the relative pay of worker to, you know, these are the difference between the CEOs and their income and the workers at Google. It's far greater than the robber barons of Rockefellers and other eras who were thought to be egregiously, the egregious inequity of that time, right? Anyway, so that was sort of a little rant about total institutions aren't okay. Google is not a social utopia. It is not a, it's not even, I can tell you, 15 or so of my previous students who've worked there aren't better for it, can't wait to get out. Can't wait to get out.
Why?
Why? Because they feel like their work is not important. They feel like they're working for a big corporation. It's not evil, maybe, but not doing much good either. You know, and they want to do. Yeah, I don't. No, I do have one of my good friends who's now at Facebook. I mean, it's a draw, right? What do you do? Facebook. The case of Mary Lou Gibson, the company was just acquired by Facebook to do Oculus. Capacity to do some interesting technical work with a big team. She's burnt out of about 15 different companies, but I'm sure she'll burn out of this one because she'll get something out of it. But is it what she really wants to do with her life for the rest of her life? We'll see. Right? Maybe it is. We're all making these decisions, but understanding that a critical view on total institutionalization is a fundamental idea of participatory democracy, right? That's not about, okay, I'm selling you everything, and now you determine where I eat, where I live, who I socialize with, when I work, where my children socialize with, etc. I lose total control of defining the creative agency of my life, which is what happens to People who go to Google, IDEO, any of the big companies, right? Who wants to have creative agency of their own lives? I think we all do, right? Anyway, let's hear the Bogota thing. I just want to, I'm excited to present and develop for Beijing ways that we can radically transform air quality and change the coal-fired power plants that are predominantly, there's two things, that's the other thing we have to work out. Contributions of coal, of the power generation system, and contributions of vehicular distribution to the air pollution issues in that area, right? We don't know what they are, but if we took that waste and generated energy locally and didn't use that much coal-fired energy, what air quality benefit would there be just in displacing that? And what energy benefit would there be in, and I think these other economic, how to capture and represent these other, you know, this is income for the elderly who may not have other forms. It's a, you know, we know that the elderly can always get some rice and oil because all they need to do is, you know, it's a form of social service that is in everyone's benefit as well, right? So that kind of mutualism, I think, is a really tremendous design, which is, I think, a really good example. So lots to do with how we could systematically, radically transform air quality in Beijing, including radically increase PPR index. This is the subtropics, right? There's no reason why that couldn't be dense, green, filled with vertical greenery in addition to power systems that don't produce the particulate and distribution systems that don't produce the particulate waste. How quickly could we do that transformation in that one neighborhood and transforming it in that way? I think it's a really exciting project to try and present to UNEP, UNEA, to the UNEP at the UNEA. Getting into the acronyms of the UN is something, and the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, right, that come out of COP21. Anyway, lots to say on that, and maybe we can meet, but anybody who has ideas, interesting examples towards having Sam go to UNEP, UNEA, and present, here is a viable way for Beijing to transform radically, that's in the interest of the elderly, those in power, the citizenry, businesses, financial district, etc. But to really present that powerfully, I think, would be extraordinary. And then what would we ask from the UN? If we were able to present a persuasive and powerful thing, what would we want the UN to do?
Keep some pressure on the Chinese government to act on the proposal.
I think that's exactly right. Pressure and celebration, potential. Look at what leadership you could have and how much this could really transform. Because what Beijing could do, Beijing can do it, you know, the impact that could have is compounded by every other Chinese city and rapidly developing economy through Korea, through Indonesia, through, you know, everywhere else. So the UN certainly would be supportive of figuring out a way to make that in the central government's interests to make it happen. Yeah. So we'll keep going on that because I'm very excited about having Sam go and present and having of course, go and present, and potentially having one of you go and present the tree cloud data system could really transform. Okay, so give us the lowdown on the last 15 minutes of class. Give us the introduction to Bogota, the design challenges, and what needs to happen in Bogota.
Do you want me to talk about Mocus?
Oh yeah, and Marcus, because he's such an agent of transformation and used novel strategies. Yeah.
So, Bogota in 1995 was the only city that had like one of the biggest gift to citizens, not to go to that place, but
Curfew?
no, not curfew, but like a warning, I guess. Like, careful going to that place, and because it was right after the war on drugs, and the one thing that made that shaped the culture in Colombia was that you can make easy money just by killing people with crimes. And so Bogota was deep into murders and like drug crimes. And this person from he was born in Bogota, but his parents are from Lithuania, and his mom's an artist. And he studied mathematics and philosophy, and he basically saved the city by using non-conventional methods. So his name is Antanas Mokus. He has a super long name in Lithuanian, so nobody knows him, but Antanas Mokus, Mokus. And he did a lot of revolutionary stuff. He was against crime force, against weapons, and he was pro-life, I guess, in a sense. So one of the biggest issues that has been going on in Bogota is the transportation system and overall like, traffic. So what he did is he fired the 3,200 police men in charge of traffic, and he hired miners to direct traffic. So during 6 months, I think that was implemented, and it actually worked because his idea was that Colombians don't care about the law, but they care about themselves and how people see them. So if they're being radicalized by a mine, it's going to affect them more than if they're just going to take it. So the mines didn't have any kind of power, but if you did something wrong, you didn't use how do you call it, like where you're supposed to walk? The crosswalk, and instead you jaywalk, a mine would go and like make fun of you or something like that, and that actually had more of an impact than a ticket would have. And that also happened with buses. Like if a bus was trying to cross on red, a bunch of miners would go and seem like that stop the bus. And so that was one of the revolutionary answers that he had. Another one was the safety, because a lot of politicians, they had a lot of big ass bodyguards. He didn't believe that, and he loved to use his bicycle. So what he did, and it was super funny, you would see him riding his bicycle through the cities like that, and all his escort behind on like jeeps and cars trying to catch up to him. And also, Colombia has always had a problem with guerrillas. And while he was in office, the secretary was in office, so 2001, they started to threaten his life. And instead of like improving his escort and actually using his escort, he made this vest out of like soft cotton, and he cut it a shape of a heart in his heart. And he has this quote that says, to translate it, it's basically when someone tries to murder you and you show him that you're 100% vulnerable, you're making him justify his actions. And if you can't, and you accept your death, you're basically being immortal to him. So he also fought against guns, and he fought against the Ministry of Defense on that because a lot of people in Bogota used to have guns. And what he did is that he changed guns for Christmas bonus or like some kind of food stamp systems, and that encouraged a lot of people to actually donate
He
their
changed
guns.
the budget.
No. He asked people to turn in their guns, and he would give them like food stamps or something like that. And he also made all his exports to give him their guns, and he melted them and constructed something out of it as culture, I think. What else he can do? Oh, he also, there was a lot of hate in the city and violence. So what he did is like he promoted this campaign of vaccination. So people would line up, he would have just drops of water and give them to the kids so that they would be cured of violence. And then you would, people that were still like feeling angry, he would get a balloon and be like, draw the person that you hate the most here. And so people would draw it, and then they would like pinch or something or destroy the balloon. And that actually helped. And the homicide rate in Bogota dropped from 80 people per 100,000 to 60 to 100,000 from the beginning to the end of this campaign. So he did a lot of other stuff, like when he was
Water use and other, all sorts of campaigns. So a real testament to creative agency in a politician.
yeah. I think the best, like the one action that completely, that started his career and still the one of the most prominent actions is he was a dean at the National University of Colombia, and there was this big revolution because a lot of people in the university were allied with like the guerrillas, and they didn't want to pay extra for the university, and he raised the cost. So he was at the biggest auditorium. I think it was like 5,000 people in it, and nobody would listen to him, and he just pulled down his pants and mooned them. And as soon as he did that, everyone stayed quiet and started to listen to him. So it's like this idea of art and creative agency, I guess. Over.
Yeah, but he said, I mean, in each case, he makes a very articulate justification of why that isn't. You know, that's not a frat boy thing to moon people. It's like actually just to change the terms, to shock everyone so much.
He said that was the only thing that he could do, and nobody had tried before to get attention, and it worked.
Yeah, and the water one that I think I sent around, right?
Oh yeah, so he was like, and so he was sitting right next to a congressman, and the Congress never liked him because he was too radical, I guess, for the time being. And he's like, there's a lot of violence and there's not a lot of tolerance in the city, and we need to change that. For example, and then he took a cup of water and he threw water at the congressman. He's like, now that I did the harm, I can only ask him for forgiveness, and the only thing that he should be able to do is forgive me. And you can see his face like angry, completely red, but he had to forgive him to state a point. So he went like, I'm so sorry for throwing you water, and he's like, whatever.
What was the point of that?
Tolerance, showing tolerance to people. And having two leaders that hate each other and one being tolerant to the actions of another one shows that it can be possible to be enacted in the city. So yeah, so that was the biggest, I love
in each and every one of these cases, so now the current critique, Marcus is aligned, he's not running for president, or his party is running for president.
Oh yeah, he ran for president, and I mean, there was this huge scandal in Latin American politics. There's always a way to hack the election. So JJ Rendon, who's this big guy that gets hired to like basically set up elections. Marcus was winning a month before the election came in polls, and then the current president Santos hired this guy Rendon. And what this guy did is that he went to the poor communities and was like, if you elect Marcus, he's going to take away your, I don't know, your health insurance, he's going to take away your subsidized meals, I don't know, whatever. And they all believe that. And that was just a month before the election. And also, there's this culture of buying votes in Bogota. It's super, super cheap. Like, you could sell your vote for like $10 because people need the money. So that's what they did. And the day of the election.
What would be the price at which you sell your vote for? Did anybody vote for the presidential? How much would you have sold your vote for? I probably would have done it for 200.
Someone tells you, I'll give you 100. Like, we all have a price. Thing is, the price of home is super, super cheap and people don't
And
want
is there an economy of buying votes in the US?
I don't think so.
Probably under the table.
I think it's hard enough to vote.
Yes,
I think
yes,
so.
people to vote in the first place,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like already hard. So like buying
Yeah.
someone and
I
paying.
think buying vote more like not the people, but like the super delegates, maybe.
Yeah,
But not out of the people.
that'd be.
But it's an interesting thing, isn't it, of at what amount of inequity makes it viable to buy votes? Because obviously you have to have a lot, even though it's quite cheap, to buy a significant number, that's going not cheap, right? So there has to be sufficient inequity between the politicians, so that inequity itself breeds further inequity, right? The thing. So this idea of transforming Bogota, the campaign that Marcos and the other mayor that was Enrique Peñalosa.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And Penrosa is the one who's supposed to be in bed with the bus company, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Penalosa is another very interesting mayor. They're not in the same party, is that right? Or they are?
They were, I don't know if they are right now. I think the Peñalosa is the current mayor, and I think he got elected for a different party, but they were at some point part of the same party.
I see. So the question is, Bogota is a city defined by tremendous, if you count the population of Bogota, it's almost
7 million.
7 million.